We will do a super quick summary of chapter 15. So chapter 15 is titled Purushottama Yoga, the Yoga of the Supreme Person, where the Lord begins the chapter with analogy of an upside down banyan tree. He says nobody knows where it starts, nobody knows where its middle is, nobody knows where it ends, but it is fed by the modes of material nature. And we also discussed that we are caught up in this illusion in Maya Devi, which is equivalent to the reflection of this tree, which is actually upside down in the water. And we are preoccupied with plucking the mangoes of this tree. The mango is actually on the tree, but we are looking for it in the water. And so this process can go on and on and on. So there are only two options for us. We can upgrade ourselves or we can degrade ourselves. We can upgrade ourselves by going up the tree in the different direction towards the spiritual world. And of course, we also have the opportunity to go in the opposite direction. So if we go further and further away down into the tree, we can get entangled in all of its trees, the leaves, the branches, etc. And Krishna specifically uses, he says the leaves are the Vedas, the twigs are the sense objects, and the fruits are actually dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. We said how the Vedas are set up perfectly, where if you follow, you first have to learn about dharma before you make a decision on whether you want to earn a living. Because some of us, of course, men specifically, may choose to stay brahmacharis for the rest of their lives as Naishtika brahmacharis. But in case you choose not to be a brahmachari, you do want to be a grahastha and get married, then automatically that means you need access to funds to support your family, to get married, to have children, and to take care of them. So to do that, you need to know a little bit about dharma in order to learn how to properly earn money. And then that money is supposed to be used back in the service and upkeep of dharma. Yes, through the process of making money, one also has the opportunity to satisfy their material desires, and therein lies the trap. So when you start satisfying your material desires, you can allow your material desires to go out of hand. And when your material desires keep growing and growing and growing unlimitedly, then you have to keep taking birth again and again. So Krishna says it's not very intelligent to be doing this. A smart person will understand that they need to get out of this trap of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Of course, the assumption is that at one point you will satisfy your material desires so much that it will increase the level of frustration for you. And you will begin to ask questions and you will go in search of liberation, moksha. But most of us don't go in search of liberation. We are quite happy where we are. As long as we are not deeply troubled, we are okay being exactly where we are. We are perfectly okay in this jail cell. Krishna then talks about the fact that he is the maintainer of everything. How he powers the spiritual world with his own light, how he maintains the entire cosmic world through his energy, the sun, the moon, the fire of digestion. All of this is actually being supported by Krishna himself. And then we talked about the three essential shlokas, which is called the Trishloke Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutras. So the first one is, there are two types of personalities, Nitya Siddhas and Nitya Baddhas. The Nitya Siddhas are enjoying themselves in the spiritual world. They never separate from Krishna. They're always there performing services to the Lord. And then we have the Nitya Baddhas who enter into the material world because they want to enjoy themselves just like the Lord. They want to be they think they can be the supreme enjoyer, supreme controller. So they try to foolishly or out of ignorance usurp the Lord's position, essentially. Or maybe usurp, maybe is too strong a word. Maybe imitate the Lord. They think even I want to imitate the Lord, even I want to enjoy like the Lord. And we talked about this analogy that the Lord says that He is the supreme enjoyer. But when we learn to please Him, then all of our senses, all of our mind, our intelligence automatically gets pleased and illuminated also. So that's the secret. Krishna is not saying you give up everything and you practice extreme austerity. Only I should enjoy. Nowhere does Krishna says that. So when Krishna says I am the supreme enjoyer, we really need to understand the context and the deeper meaning behind that, which is that if we learn to please Him, then we get everything that we need in our life. We don't have to do double duty. We don't have to pursue materialistic outcomes because they will come to us through Krishna's mercy, as long as we are serving Krishna. So the first principle was Nitya Siddha and Nitya Baddha. The second principle was there is a supreme soul. And the supreme soul is actually maintaining the entire material cosmos. And we said the supreme soul is actually Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the second Vishnu that actually enters each of the universes as the super soul of that universe, of that particular universe. Just like we have a super soul within us that's referred to as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. The super soul for every universe is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So the two together act as the supreme soul. And they maintain everything. And then Krishna says, he then references to himself as Bhagavan. So in Shloka 17, it's Paramatma. In Shloka 18, he is referencing to himself as Bhagavan. That he is transcendental, he is beyond the fallible and infallible. And therefore, because of his position as the Supreme Lord, he is celebrated in this material world as well as in the Vedas as that supreme person. And then Krishna talks about his devotees again, how they are always engaged in devotional service. And then Krishna comes back to the topic of this Jnana Yoga, that this part of the Vedic scriptures, the 3 shloka summary, whoever understands this, Krishna says, they will become wise and his endeavors will know perfection. He's not saying they will come back to me. That's the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. That they will learn more and more, and at some point they will perfect their knowledge. So that was chapter 15. And Krishna talks about, if we are smart, we will cut out our attachment to this material world through the weapon of knowledge. And but this detachment can also be difficult and confusing. So there is a personality, his name is Lal Babu, And this is not a fictitious character. There are stories about Lal Babu. So this Lal Babu was attending some drama one day. He's an extremely wealthy man. He's a businessman, but he also happens to be a devotee of Lord Krishna. So this Lal Babu, as he's sitting in the audience, there is a father and with his very young daughter in the play, watching the play. And suddenly the little girl says, Papa, I'm tired, I want to go home. So what is the statement the little girl makes? I am tired, I want to go home. This was in the middle of the play. The play had not completed yet. Hearing these statements from this young child, it gets Lal Babu thinking that he's tired of this material world. The time has come for him to go home. Go home, back to the spiritual. So what does he do? He gives up his business, he distributes his wealth, and he moves from West Bengal to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, he has a very close friend who is also a very wealthy businessman and also happens to be a devotee of Krishna. So he's given up everything. Now he needs a guru. So he goes in search of a guru. He finds one in Vrindavan and begs and pleads with his spiritual master to accept him as a disciple. At that time, the spiritual master says, I don't think you're ready. And he argues, he says, what do you mean, I don't think I'm ready? I have given up everything to come in search of a guru so that I can begin my journey back home. So like this, he approaches this personality 2 or 3 times, asking to be accepted as a disciple. Every time he gets rejected. And he's told he's not ready. So see, even as devotees, we may come, not we may, we are actually under the influence of false ego. So even having given up everything, this particular Lal Babu was carrying with him the knowledge that he had given up everything, that it is impossible for anybody to just give up everything, give up their attachment to their family, give up their wealth, leave their house behind and simply go to Vrindavan. So in his mind, he had this false pride. Look at me. Where I was, where I am today. What great austerity I have undertaken by giving up everything material. So this is the beauty of a relationship between guru and disciple, right? Guru means he extracts submissiveness from you. If you are not submissive, guru can reject accepting you as a disciple. So in this case, the guru knew, although he did not verbally express this, he knew that this Lal Babu has still a big ego. But this time the ego was not how great I am, I became successful. How great I am, I gave up my success and came to try and lead a simple life. So even as a devotee, Maya can trick you into thinking you're great because you're practicing such great austerity. So when the guru rejects him multiple times, he decides to go to his friend in Vrindavan, because his friend is also a great devotee of the Lord. He has not given up his family or his wealth. He's still a successful businessman. So he knows that his friend offers charity every day outside his house. Every day he gives charity to the poor. So what happened? He goes and he stands in a queue. There are a lot of poor people standing in the queue waiting to receive the charity from this friend of his. And he also stands in line. And when he comes to his friend says, Lal Babu, what are you doing here? Why are you standing in line? And Lal Babu tells him, I only want one thing from you. You have Krishna Prema, I don't. Can you give me some of your Krishna Prema that you possess? You have such love for Krishna. You're doing so much service for him selflessly. Can you give me that Krishna Prema? Hearing this, his friend is astounded. He says, my dear Lal Babu, I don't have Krishna Prema. And hearing this, Lal Babu gets dejected and walks away. And as he walks away, feeling extremely distressed, disappointed, thinking, what have I done? I've given up everything. I came in search of a guru. Guru is rejecting me multiple times. He thought there was no hope for him left anymore. So as he turns around to walk away, who does he see? He sees his spiritual master. And his spiritual master tells him, I will now accept you as a disciple. Because he was brought down several notches, realizing that perhaps there was no hope for him. He had given up everything in vain, thinking that he can begin his spiritual journey. When he came to the proper platform, then his guru was waiting for him. And he said, yes, now I will initiate you. Now I will accept you as a disciple. So this is the story of Lal Babu. So even detachment can be false. You may give up detachment to material things, but end up being still quite attached to your ego that you've actually given something up. So this is just like a warning for us that even in devotee life, we have to be very careful. When Krishna says he maintains everything, in one of the chapters, he says, why do you need to know all of this? With just a spark of my splendor, I manage everything, Arjuna, he says. So I was talking about how the gopis in Vrindavan get an opportunity to dance with the Lord, each of them individually with the Lord in the Rasa Leela. And I had mentioned in one of the classes that the Rasa Leela, the Lord expands time. In human terms, we may have seen it as just one night, but if you read the Shastras, the gopis were dancing with Krishna for 4.3 billion earth years because Krishna simply expanded time. So they were dancing for exactly one day, 12 hours of Brahma. This is the Lord. He can do anything. So there was a very old Brahmana in South India. He decides to go to Badrikashram. He wanted to visit the Dham and take darshan of the deities there. So he begins his journey from South India all the way to the north. And as he arrives in Badrinath, as we know, in Badrinath, the temple is closed for 6 months during the winter time. Nobody can live there comfortably. So generally what happens is when the temple closes, the deities are taken out and they come down lower the mountain so that they can take care of the deities. It just so happened when this old Brahmana reaches Badrinath, he sees the priest and others coming down with the deities. And they tell this Brahmana, "Oh Brahmana, you've come so late. This temple is shut for 6 months now. So if you want darshan, you have to wait for 6 months." Now this Brahmana is very old and frail. So he's thinking, I don't have any energy to go back down the mountain. I've come so far. So he decides to stay there while the priests and a couple of others leave. So he's there alone by himself. So what does he do? He takes out his chanting bag and starts chanting on his mala. And he does this all night. And suddenly he sees a beautiful personality arrive out of nowhere on a white horse. He's dressed like a warrior. And the warrior, they begin to talk to each other. And the warrior says, "Acha, so what are you doing here all alone by yourself?" And he says, "I don't know what to do. I came here to take darshan. Temple is closed. I don't have the energy to go back down. So I'm stuck." So this warrior says, "Oh, okay, no problem." He says, "Let's play dice." So they do. For the rest of the night, both of them are playing dice. Finally, the warrior says, "Okay, now I have to leave." And the Brahmana goes to sleep. When he wakes up in the morning, he sees the priest coming back up the mountain along with the deities and a few other people. The procession is coming back. And he's puzzled. He's thinking, why are they back so soon? They said they'll come back after 6 months. So he asks the priest, "How come you're back? You told me last night that you'll be gone for 6 months and I have to wait for 6 months to take darshan." And the priest says, "What do you mean? It's been 6 months. How did you survive all these 6 months alone here by yourself?" Suddenly the Brahmana realized that that was the Lord who had come to keep him company for 6 months and play dice with him. So the Lord can do anything. He can expand time. So when you are a devotee of the Lord, Krishna customizes his plans for you. That's the beauty of being a devotee of Krishna. So let's come to chapter 16. So this chapter 16 is called Daivashura Sampada Yoga. What's the connection between chapter 15 and 16? In chapter 15, Krishna has introduced 2 types of personalities, Kshara and Akshara, fallible and infallible. The infallible live in the spiritual world, the fallible are here in the material world. And we discussed that as long as we are in this material world, we have an option of upgrading ourselves or degrading ourselves. The choice is ours. So Krishna explains that if we develop divine qualities, then we will be elevated to higher places on the banyan tree. But if we imbibe demoniac qualities, then we will degrade into lower life forms. You know, when we were talking about the gunas, Remember, Krishna says if you are on the tamogun, you can either go to lower planetary systems or you can go to lower species of life. So in this chapter, Krishna is describing the qualities of a person who is divine and those who are considered demoniac. So that is why this is called Daiva Ashura Sampada Yoga. Before we begin, let's offer our humble obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So the acronym for today is DOOR. So there are divine and demoniac qualities. Krishna will not focus on the divine qualities as much. There's a reason for that, because he himself says in this chapter, he's spoken about it already in detail. So he's going to focus on demoniac qualities and what's the nature of these people, what do they do, how do they act, how do they behave, what's their opinion. So these are the things that Krishna is going to get into. And then of course he will talk about how to remove these demoniac qualities. What causes us to acquire this demoniac tendencies, Krishna will talk about, and he will also give us the solution. Every time Krishna identifies a problem, he's always giving us the solution. So let's get into the chapter. So Krishna talks about the 26 divine qualities and 6 demoniac qualities. The 26 divine qualities are actually, let me go back and just look at the shlokas. So in the very first 3 shlokas, Krishna has summarized the divine qualities, 26. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. So actually anybody who follows the Varnashrama system and follow the Vedic scriptures will ultimately acquire all these qualities. Essentially they will be in the Sattvagun stage and can also transcend this to come to the Shuddha Sattvagun stage. So Krishna is saying these are the qualities. So what is the demoniac qualities? 6. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demoniac nature, O son of Pritha. And in Shloka 5, he explains the difference or the impact of the two. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. So if you're really aspiring for liberation, liberation has many meanings. It's not just moksha. It also means to be free from anxiety, even in this world. So you can actually live a less anxious life or a pure life if you acquire these transcendental qualities. Because Krishna is saying they are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. So demoniac qualities is pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. And as if to calm Arjuna down, he says, do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities. So Krishna is saying, don't worry. I think you possess divine qualities. You are not a demon, Arjuna. O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. So Krishna has talked about Nitya Siddha and Nitya Baddha. Now he is going to describe the two types of Nitya Baddhas. One is divine and one is Ashirik. O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called divine and the other demoniac. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me of the demoniac. So pretty much the rest of the chapter is going to be about Krishna's opinion about the people who possess demoniac qualities. So 26 divine qualities, 6 demoniac qualities. Now, the question is, now how do these qualities actually develop? And this also reminds me of what we discussed a little bit earlier, that different yugas had a different set of personalities, right? So for example, in Satya Yuga, the demons used to live on a separate planet and the devatas used to live on a separate planet. Simply meaning the divine, the daivas and the asuras were on 2 different planets. When we are talking about devas here, we are not talking about the 33 crore devas. We are just talking about anybody who is godly in nature. And then anybody who is demoniac in nature, in Satya Yuga, they were on different planets. But in Treta Yuga, they happen to come to the same planet. They may have been in different families. In Dwapar Yuga, the divine and demoniac existed within one family. In the same family, you had personalities with both types of inclinations. But in the Kali Yuga, both of these qualities reside within every single individual. So there are some aspects of us that are divine. So if you look at the 26 divine qualities, I mean, I'm sure there are some of this that we possess in maybe small quantities. Or we choose to exercise or utilize or display these qualities sometimes, maybe not all the time. And sometimes we display these qualities: pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. So all of us possess some amount of divine and some amount of demoniac. The percentage distribution within each of us is going to vary from person to person. And Krishna is going to tell us in this chapter how one gets stuck with these qualities. How do they develop actually? Which is very interesting. So, there was a young girl who asked her father one day, where do we come from? And he says, he's a scientist. So he says, we come from apes. So she thinks, oh, we come from monkeys. So she goes to her mother and she asks her the same question. And she says, we come from God. So now she's confused. So father has said, we come from apes. Mother has said, we come from God. So she asks her mother, how's both of it possible? And why are you all giving me different answers? Father is saying we come from apes. Mother is saying we come from God. So when she asks this question of her mother says, yes, your father's side of the family have come from apes. My side of the family, we have descended from God. So she was able to justify the answer anyway to the child. So this is what we teach our children. Complete confusion. Where do we come from? So there is a reason how and why we actually develop these qualities. But if we think that life is meaningless, it's all just a one shot at happiness, then really there is no purpose in life, right? Then it's just sheerly trying to enjoy yourself. That's what you're really looking at here. So, how do they develop? What are the results of these qualities and the ideal solution for a peaceful society? These things are covered by Krishna in this chapter. So, divine qualities, Krishna says, if you have these divine qualities, it can help you transcend the material world. It helps you progress on a spiritual path. It's worth looking at those 26 qualities again. And we all know the 6 demoniac qualities, of one of which is anger. So in today's, what do you call it? Nuclear families, smaller families, there's still no peace. So we know that a family that prays together stays together, because then you have put Krishna in the center, and then it is easy to actually cooperate with each other. But if each member of the family thinks I, me, mine, then that can create a lot of problems in the family. So Krishna then says, if you have the demoniac qualities, these 6, you cannot aspire for liberation. It's not possible. It's beyond your reach. Okay. So I gave you the answer. I wanted to ask you the question. Okay. Anyway, so how do these qualities develop? Krishna will explain. One is what you're born with. Because of your previous experiences, you come with a certain set of qualities. But also at birth, things can be changed through what is called samskaras. We will discuss that in a minute here. 2 is nature. Nature means, what is it that you choose to focus on? Are you feeding the divine, or are you feeding the demoniac? So that is in your hands, which is, what do you cultivate? Which characters are you actually focused on cultivating? So that's nature. Actually, I would probably change this. I would say nature, nurture, and culture instead of birth, nature, and practice. Nature is what you're born with. Nurture is what you choose to practice. And culture is the kind of people that you associate with. So I would modify this slide to nature, nurture, and culture. Nature is what you are born with. Even that can be influenced. Nurture is what you choose to cultivate. Culture is who you choose to hang out with. Remember, the single word summary of this chapter is inmates. There are 2 kinds of inmates in this jail: Daivas and Asuras. Daivas again here does not mean demigods. Anybody who is godly is considered Daiva. So Krishna says, Abhijatasya, which means, what are you born with? There are reasons why samskaras are so important in the Vedic culture. Because performing the samskaras, by understanding what is the purpose behind the samskaras, can actually influence the consciousness of a human being. So for example, when a woman gets pregnant, there are multiple samskaras that are performed, beginning with what is called the Garbhadana samskara, which means even before the man and the woman choose to have a child, they perform a ceremony, and in that ceremony, they invite elders and they take their blessings. And the promise that they make is, before they unite, they will focus on the Lord. They will pray to the Lord, that they should be in the right consciousness, so that as they unite, that the child may have a good start, may come into a godly atmosphere. So after the woman gets pregnant, then there are some more practices that are followed. So it is said that when a woman gets pregnant, great care, our Shastras say this, great care should be taken that she is not under any undue stress. One of the reasons she's sent to her mother's house is it's home, and her mother is best positioned to take care of her nicely, to make sure she's comfortable, she's fed well, she's peaceful. And the mother is supposed to be reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, reciting shlokas every day to influence the consciousness of the child growing in her womb. If you recall, Prahlad, while he was in Kayadu's womb, and they are living in Narada Muni's ashram, Narada Muni is speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam to Kayadu. Ultimately, she ends up falling asleep. But Prahlad has already met his guru without even seeing him. His consciousness was completely purified, hearing the Bhagavatam from the lips of a pure devotee like Narada Muni. So when Prahlad is born, he is born as a transcendental personality, because he had the opportunity to hear about the Lord while he was in the womb. So this is the importance of samskaras in our culture. So yes, you, even before you're born, your consciousness can be influenced if the parents are wise and intelligent and they know how to actually do this. So in ISKCON, we normally advise couples that they should follow all the samskaras. And every day, actually, Canto 7 should be read. Canto 7 is Prahlad's pastimes, Hiranyakashipu's pastimes. So we advise the mother and the father, if the mother is with her mother, then yes, she should be reading the Bhagavatam every day. The child should be hearing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. So like this, the child's consciousness can be influenced even before it comes out. Right? So one is what you acquire at birth. And of course, the kind of food that the mother consumes at the time of pregnancy also makes a big difference in the physical development as well as the spiritual nourishment that the child gets. Sattvic food only, prasadam only. That also influences the child. So if we look at let me see what is on the other slide. Okay. So we said this is nurture, right? That was nature. This is nurture. Nurture is what we choose to practice. Even though material conditions are miserable, if these qualities are developed by practice, which is the divine qualities, by all classes of men, then gradually it is possible to rise to the highest platform of transcendental realization. So one is what you actually practice. This is culture. What are you associating with? Are you associating with people in the mode of goodness? Are you associating with people in the modes of passion and ignorance? So if you're associating with people in the modes of passion and ignorance, this is considered demoniac. Actually, even those in the mode of goodness who are not connected to the Lord are also considered as demons. So this is the culture part of it. Nature, nurture, and culture. So your birth, how birth influences you, what you choose to practice or cultivate, and who you choose to spend time with. These three things influence whether you get divine qualities or demoniac qualities. If you're spending a lot of time with people with predominantly demoniac qualities, then it is not surprising that you will acquire them. There is a saying, no, we are the company that we keep, and we are the food that we eat. So there are foods in the mode of passion. There are people in the mode of passion and ignorance. There are foods in the mode of ignorance. There are people in the mode of ignorance. So we have to mind so many different things if we want to create an atmosphere for us to develop the divine qualities. That's what Krishna is saying. So let's recite the shloka. Daivi sampad vimokshaya.
Daivi
Daivi
sampad vimokshaya.
Nibandhaya surimata.
Nibandhaya surimata.
Ma shuchaha sampadam daivim.
Ma
Suchu Sampadam Daivim
Abhijatosi Pandava.
Abhijatosi
Abhijatosi
Pandava.
Pandava.
Krishna saying, Ma Shuchaha, don't worry, Arjuna. You are born with the divine qualities. So what's the solution for all of this? Come back to ABCD. Who do we associate with? What kind of books we read and hear?
Associating with devotees.
Associating with devotees, yes. So the more you associate with devotees, the more your consciousness gets influenced. So slowly you will move from divine to, from demoniac, or at least get rid of some of your demoniac tendencies. Come to the more divine platform. And all of this comes about without your even being aware of it. It just happens naturally.
True. Yes.
Yes.
We will not notice that.
You will not notice it, yes. So the more you associate with devotees, the more you read the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, then naturally you will have these, you will start, these qualities will shine. You know, you will have a little bit more self-control. You'll become more simple. You'll be willing to practice austerities. You will have little less anger in you. You will be more tranquil. Actually, this one is also an impact of practicing Krishna consciousness. Suddenly you don't care about what others say, what they do. So you will stop trying to talk ill about people also. You will notice this. You will also notice that your determination increases. You will notice that your energy level increases, especially if you're chanting 16 rounds or more. You will notice your energy levels going up. You will be more ready to forgive and forget and move on. You will not carry hurt around with you. That's a big burden. So you will suddenly realize that a lot of the things that you worried about and you cared about suddenly are meaningless and don't make any sense. So you are ready to give it all up. Give it all up means, I'm just saying, the little, these foolish things, anger, harshness, ignorance, all these unrealistic expectations we have both of ourselves as well as of others, you will slowly give it up. This will happen, I can guarantee you that. But you need to follow the process. follow the process. So if we follow the ABCD process, it works beautifully. Association, books, chanting is very important. Especially chanting during the Brahma Muhurta time is very important. This is why every day some of the devotees log in. You must be thinking, why are we so foolish to log into Zoom at 4:15 in the morning, 4:10 in the morning? Because we want to watch Mangalarati, and that's the best time to actually also do your chanting. And yes, you have to change your diet and also engage in some deity seva. If you recall, Prabhupada said his preference was that devotees stay close to the temple so that they can serve the deities in the temple directly every day. If you're not close to the temple, yes, you can have your own deities at home and worship them at home every day. Any which way, if you're looking to get initiated, etc., you have to do Mangalarti at home every day, Tulsi Puja at home every day. So these are things that actually really help you. Actually, one of the best things you can do for yourself is do Tulsi Puja every day. Just pour a little bit of water to Tulsi, offer her some flowers, some incense sticks, offer your obeisances to her, circumambulate her 4 times, chant the mantra, Yani Kani Chapapani mantra. Because it is said, if you read the translation of that shloka, Yani Kani Chapapani, the shloka translation means that just by circumambulating Tulsi Devi, the sin of even killing a Brahmana is wiped out. It is said that the most egregious crime that a person can commit is to kill a Brahmana or an old person or a child or a woman or a cow. These 5 activities are considered to be the worst of the worst and have the most severe punishment as per our Shastra. So this Yani Kani Cha Papani, Brahma Hatyadikani Cha, even if you've killed a Brahmana, the greatest sin one can ever have, that sin is wiped away just by circumambulating Tulsi Devi. So that's what that shloka means. Yani kani cha papani, Brahma hatyadikani cha, tani tani pranashyanti, pradakshina pade pade. The power of Tulsi worship cannot be underestimated. Your bhakti will increase if you're doing Tulsi seva every day. Both a man and a woman can do this. Everybody should water a Tulsi plant every day. Offer her obeisances and very nicely do the circumambulation. How many times you're supposed to circumambulate, I said?
4 times.
4 times, yes.
Can we chant from at 5, or we have to start the chanting at 4:30?
Brahma Muhurta is 2 hours and 45 minutes before sunrise. Any time during that time you can begin your chanting.
Okay.
In ISKCON, we say you should wake up at 3:30 so that by 4 you're ready to start your chanting. Right? So what will happen if everybody follows the ABCD formula? The individual will be divine, the family will be divine, and the community will have only divine qualities. And it will happen naturally. Naturally it will happen. Nobody needs to force you to do anything. You will do it on your own because you will experience the success. You will experience this ananda by doing this. Right. Now, Arjuna doesn't ask this question in this chapter. He actually asks, he mentions this in chapter 1. He says, I have to go to hellish planets if I kill all these people. You know, I don't want to be this evil person killing all my family members. this is not the reason I want to fight. There's no point in me winning the kingdom if I have to pay a heavy price for it. So then Krishna comes to the description of the demons. The demoniac person who has no faith in God or super soul within himself performs all kinds of sinful activities simply for sense gratification. He does not know that there is a witness in his heart. So remember, we said the Paramatma acts as a neutral party, simply witnessing what you want to do and also sanctioning your desires as long as you have the appropriate credits for it. Whereas for a devotee, that same Paramatma is actually replaced by Bhagavan, and Bhagavan is actually controlling your trajectory in life. You may not be aware of it, but he is doing it. So what does Krishna say about the demons? He is saying they don't know what is right and what is wrong, what should be done and what should be not be done. They simply reject the Shastras. So Krishna is defining demons as those who don't follow the Shastras, those who don't follow the Vedic scriptures. How many of you know people like this? There are many, many, many millions and billions of people on the planet exactly like this. They don't care for the Shastras. It's too hard for them. They have become too modern. Krishna says he considers them demons. Okay, what are the other qualities? They are unclean. They don't want to follow rules. They think I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, why should I care about Shastras? They are self-centered. They engage in improper behavior. They think I am perfect, why do I need to improve? I'm not causing anybody any trouble. I'm a good human being. What's there to change? I'm happy with myself. Others are happy with me. Why do I need to change at all? So self-centeredness, untruthfulness, these are some of the things that Krishna is talking about in the shlokas. What is the attitude? Primarily, they are interested in gratifying their senses. That's all. I have come here to enjoy myself and I want to enjoy myself. But Krishna says the problem is these people, they create problems not only for themselves, but for all the rest of society, they create problems. So they are danger not just to themselves, they are a danger to the rest of society, Krishna says. So what happens when they are busy chasing this, that, and the other? They end up with anxieties. And pretty soon, they have so many desires that they are trapped by these desires. It just increases the lust and anger and frustration for them. So much so that some of them may even secure money. Krishna is saying this, it's there in the shlokas. Krishna says that they may even secure money by illegal means. Why? Because sense gratification is so important for them. If they don't have money, they'll figure out some other way of satisfying their senses. Characteristics of the demons. Atma sambhavita stabdha.
Atma
Atma-sambhavita sabdha
Dhanamanamadhanvitaah.
Dhanamana-madanvita
Yajante nama yajnaiste.
Yajante
Yajante nama-yajnaiste
Yajneste
Dhambena viddhipurvakam.
Dambena
Veddi
Vidipurvakam.
Purvakam.
What is Krishna saying? They are self-complacent. They are always impudent. They are deluded by wealth and false prestige. They sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulations. So there are a lot of people who will do all kinds of ceremonies in the temple. But they are devoid of devotion for the Lord. They are devoid of love for the Lord. Krishna says, these are austerities and sacrifices performed in name only. It's a waste of energy. There's no benefit to performing such kind of sacrifices or yajnas. So to perform sacrifices, you first have to follow the rules and regulations. You cannot violate and do whatever you want and then come and think if you perform a yajna, everything is sanctified. It's not. So Krishna continues. So they perform religious rituals in name only without accepting any rules or regulations. Krishna calls it aviddhipurvakam. Next, they disregard the rules and regulations of scriptures and are always impudent. They don't care. And this impudence is due to illusion caused by wealth and false prestige. And worst, Krishna says some of these people, they put on a sannyasi dress. They fool the rest of society that they are sannyasis, but they do not restrain their senses. Do we know of sannyasis like this in India? Definitely, we have heard about some of them. This is the danger Krishna is pointing out. What do? They preach that whatever path one creates is one's own path. There is no standard path. That's the worst thing. They simply say there are no Vedas, you can do whatever you want. You, me, I, everybody is God. What are the results of such qualities? They are perplexed by various anxieties. Krishna says they are under a network of illusion. They are too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and they fall down to hell. Krishna is saying that. If you keep feeding your demoniac qualities, what will happen? We'll have to go to hell to pay a price for it. So now, the solution. How do we remove these demoniac qualities? We already said, oh, if we practice ABCD, the demoniac qualities will reduce anyway, naturally, without you having to force yourself to do it. Without you being even conscious of it, this will happen. But Krishna actually tells a little trick behind this. He says, there are actually 3 gates to hell. Lust, greed, lust, anger, and greed. Trividham narakadeshyam
Trividham narakashedham
dvaram nashanam
Dvaram nashanam atmana
kama krodastatha lobhas
Kama krodha tatha lobha
tasmade tatrayam tyajet.
Tasmadetattrayam tayetet
Trividham narakas dhyayam. Narakas yedham. 3 gates to hell. What are the 3 gates to hell? The 3 characteristics of lust, anger, and greed. So Krishna is telling us, when you have this lust, anger, and greed with you, they are your doorway to hell. And then what is Krishna saying? Every sane man should give these up. Why? Because they lead to the degradation of the soul. The soul has to go and occupy other bodies to be severely punished. So lust, anger, and greed are the 3 gates to hell. How to overcome these gates? Well, one needs to go to the Shastras first. So Krishna says, what is the result for the demons who are not following the Shastras? Remember, this entire section is Jnana Yoga, right? This is not Bhakti Yoga. Jnana Yoga means following the Varnashrama system, following the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha path, following the Vedic scriptures. So Krishna is saying, what is the result for those who are not following the Shastras? If one disregards scriptural injunction and acts according to his own whims, there is neither purification nor happiness, nor supreme destination. So this is why Krishna considers such people demons. They have not only rejected Shastra, they have decided they can do whatever they want. And if you do whatever you want, even though you may have achieved some perfection and happiness, but that is useless. It's temporary. And certainly you're not making any progress on your spiritual journey. So then Krishna in the next shloka talks about the importance of following the Shastra. To control and regulate these demoniac qualities, to control and regulate these demoniac qualities, one must follow scriptural injunctions for the purpose of gradual elevation. Again, Krishna is just talking about following, doing karma yoga, following by following the Shastras. You can also do nishkama karma yoga. He's not talking about bhakti yoga here. So all of us can take the blue pill or the red pill, that's our choice. Krishna leaves it to us what we want to do. We can either act in a way that takes us towards the path of self-realization. Simply by following the scriptures, you can escape these gates of hell, lust, anger, and greed, and ultimately achieve the supreme destination. But if we reject the scriptures and act whimsically, then we are going to be in a miserable condition. And the only place for us is going to be hellish planets. So we have a choice which pill we want to take. The blue pill or the red pill. So we will stop here. Let's quickly look at chapter 16 summary. There's a lot more to cover, but I will cover it tomorrow. What are the divine and demoniac qualities? How do they develop? What are the results of these qualities? What's the solution? And then Krishna talks about the demons' beliefs, their attitude, their characteristics, their qualities. And then he tells us what is the core problem here and how to overcome them. How to overcome them, we said? You have to upgrade yourself by following the Shastras, so you can go to the right banyan tree and reach the right banyan tree, which is real. But the choice is ours. We have the freedom to decide what we want to do. So you can read what Krishna is saying. So he's saying, those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior, nor truth is found in them. They say that this world is unreal, with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. Following such conclusions, the demoniac who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. We are seeing this happen live today in our society. Taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus the illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. They believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable. Bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy and I have killed him. and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. And Krishna concludes by saying, in this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Thus, perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulations. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Krishna is saying what he does to these individuals. Attaining repeated birth among the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. There are 3 gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. The man who has escaped these 3 gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization, and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection, nor happiness, nor the supreme destination. One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So the single word summary for Daivashara Sampad Vibhaga Yoga is inmates. So ultimately, for us, because we all live in Kali Yuga, we have to be careful what qualities we choose to cultivate. And who do we choose to spend time with? So we'll stop here for the day. I have a few important points that I will cover tomorrow on the same chapter.